Question 5. Which of the following is the value of inverse sine of a given that a is greater than pi and less than 3 pi over 2? There's a number of ways we can approach this particular problem. I'm going to take a geometrical or a graphical approach to this. Now the question is asking for the value of inverse sine of a. Now inverse sine and sine are inverse operations, one is the inverse of the other. And if a happens to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2, then quite simply inverse sine of a is just a. And in fact the answer would have been option C in this case. But the value of a that's given is greater than pi and less than 3 pi over 2. So what I'm going to do is graph the relation x equals sine y. That's just the graph of y equals inverse sine of x, but continued on along the y-axis, potentially forever. The graph of y equals inverse sine of x is a function. It must pass the vertical line test. It starts here from negative 1, negative pi over 2, and ends here at 1 pi over 2. I'm going to continue this graph a little bit further. So it's no longer a function, it's a relation. And the value of a that's quoted is here. And I've highlighted the part of the graph in that particular interval on the y-axis, from pi to 3 pi over 2, not including the endpoints. But we're not given a relation. We're given inverse sine of a. So the values of y that we need to consider have to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2, not from pi to 3 pi over 2, because that's not within the range of inverse sine of x, or inverse sine of an angle. So we somehow need to transform this part of the curve here, this curve that I've highlighted in yellow, so that it is superimposed on this green region here, so the part of the curve that I've highlighted in green. So the first thing we can do is to reflect this part of the curve in the x-axis, and the way we do that is we multiply a by negative 1, so this part of the curve here will end up somewhere down here, but reflected, so it'll probably look something like that there. And then we need to translate this part of the curve up so that it's superimposed on the green highlighted part of the curve there. And the way we do that is we need to add pi units to this curve so that it's translated vertically up by pi units. So I'm just going to write that down. So if we start off with a, we reflect this part of the curve by multiplying a by negative 1, so it becomes negative a, so it ends up here. And then I'm going to add pi to it to translate that part of the curve so that's superimposed here. And negative a plus pi is just pi minus a, if we simplify that. And therefore the correct answer is option B.